Hello everyone, today I'm going to make a very short and very simple video on this cute little poetry exercise I did. So I watched Gabbi Hanna's video. I'm not sure if this is showing up on the screen share right now, but oh, here we go. So I watched hello everyone, so I'm going to make this video very short and sweet. So I watched this video by Zoe B on poetics and what makes poetry good and why we sort of have it all wrong. And in that video, she shows an example of a really bad poem, which is Gabbi Hanna's poem Iron from that weird book of poetry that she wrote. And I was really intrigued by it because I was like, well, let's just read it. Let's just read it. So here we go. It says, this is the poem by Gabbi Hanna, Iron. When I was young, my mom used to check if the iron was hot by touching it. And I don't know, I just feel like there's a metaphor in there somewhere. That's a bad poem. But why is it a bad poem? Simply put, this stuff at the end, not, I'm not going to call it stupid, but it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. That sounds like something you wrote when you were drafting the poem, not like there are times to be self-aware in poems. This is not one of them. Also, there's no reason why okay, so your mom used to check if the iron was hot by touching it. You haven't answered all my questions. Why? Why did she do that? Why didn't she just iron the fabric like you normally do? What kind of iron was it? Did she tell you about it? Did you see it? Like, what's the point in this? Anyway, but I was really intrigued because like, there's something here. There is something here. So, the first thing I decided to do was do some brainstorming. In the video by Zoe B, she writes a poem and she does no brainstorming, or she does like a second of brainstorming, which is very interesting, but I can't do that. So I spent a bit of time going over it. So I was like, what are the feelings associated with iron? Just random things. None of these headings should be taken super seriously, but I was like, okay, well, iron's strong, right? We use iron to make like tools and stuff. Iron's strong, and iron rusts over time in water. That's what I know about iron, is that like if you leave it in water, or like iron bridges in the rain, the reason the Golden Gate Bridge is red is because it's all rusted over. So iron rusts over time in water, which can be beautiful but can also corrode it. Um, and so what are some other feelings? Well, when you think about it, a hot iron is painful. Like, why is she touching the iron? How much is she touching the iron? Is it just a fingertip? Is it her whole hand? Is it like just a little bit? How long is she holding her hand on there, you know? Like I said, the normal way to check an iron is to rub it on the fabric and then you put your hand down on the fabric. And if the fabric feels hot, then the iron's hot. But what doing this way is technically faster, I guess. But it's a lot more difficult and a lot more painful. And also, she says when I was young, but like kids are always taught not to touch hot things. You would not want a kid touching the iron. So why is the mom checking the iron like this if it's hot? And what kind of iron is this? Like, I'm assuming it's an electric one, probably electric, but it could be like an old house iron, or like, what color is it? Is it brown? Is it white? Like, what is it? So there are all these questions that you can answer. Um, and then I thought about, okay, if we're gonna, she says, I feel like there's a metaphor in there somewhere. Well, what could possible metaphors be? Well, an iron is hot and it's painful to touch, but we're touching it for a reason. We're touching it to check it and see if it's, to check it out and see if it is hot or not, because we need to know that. So, what other things do we touch, even though they're painful? Um, Cactuses. They're not all cactuses are super prickly. Some of them you can pet, but cactuses sometimes, prickly hairbrushes, like some hairbrushes are like really spiky. And so you get those like round ones. I remember those big round barrel brushes that had like all the little brush tips on them that were like really spiky, and as you brushed it across your head, it would like spike it. We have gumballs on the ground, like the little gumball brown spiky things on the ground, sharp pencil tips. This is just what came to my head. I didn't use everything, but and then the mental images in my head, like what does this make me think of? Like other things, like trying to touch someone if they're crying and they like slap your hand away, sort of like that instant reaction back. Um, or like how whenever you touch something hot, like your reactions, your nervous system pulls your hand back, but it sort of goes in slow motion, but at the same time it's super fast. And there's also that phrase, strike while the iron is hot. So I have step one listed here is delete the last three lines. That's what makes it really bad, because it is. Because to be honest, I mean, this isn't much of a poem, but it's kind of the beginning of a good one. It could be. But I decided to change it all up because I'm not, I'm doing the same concept just with a different thing. So I said, here's what I called the poem Tiny Dancers. Growing up, my mom would lay a hand on the iron. It was painful watching her. Shit, it's ready. She runs over to the sink. Cold water, cold running water, dancing over her hand, healing with every step. I asked her why, and she told me straight up that it's nice to feel things sometimes. Granted, it's a little depressing and it has absolutely no. The hard thing about this was that I wanted so badly to write something about this idea here, about a poem about checking if the iron is hot by touching it, but I've never done that myself, and neither has anyone I've ever known. So that made it really difficult, but I think I did a decent job here. What I think makes this is the best paragraph of the whole poem by far. Um, but I think that this exclamation here, as well as this beautiful image of the water being tiny dancers, which I don't even say that, but like you can tell tiny dancers. Oh, the water dances over her hand. Maybe you can't tell, but hopefully you can. See, it's not that difficult, right? It's just tiny dancers. Oh, the water is dancing over her hand, so the water droplets are tiny dancers. Um, Anyway, yeah, I guess this would be considered a video response to this video that I watched. But the problem is that YouTube doesn't do those anymore, apparently. So yeah, Zoe B, I hope you see this. I really enjoyed your video. It was great, and I cannot wait to I cannot wait to write more poems. Thank you so much.